Hello students, welcome back to my class. Today we are going to study one of the poems from Nissim Ezekiel, Enterprise. Nissim Ezekiel, as we know, is a 20th century Indian writer in English who composed poems, and he was also at the same time a playwright, a critic, and so many other miscellaneous intellectual activities he was engaged with. And he is also popularly known as the father of modern Indian English poetry because he was greatly influenced by the poetry of Eliot, Ezra Pound, and others. And he brought all those modern characteristics of English poetry to his writings. Among his themes, we find a great variety ranging from the contemporary Indian social life to the Western ideas of spirituality, intellectuality, and so on. And in the present poem, that is Enterprise, we find it as one of the didactic poems by Ezekiel, which is having a spiritual implication or a spiritual direction. And this poem is having some sort of resemblance or some sort of uh, influences of the so called other poems of this category, like the Canterbury Tales of Geoffrey Chaucer, or the poem of T.S. Eliot, The Journey of the Magi, where the Magi are the three wise men are undertaking a journey. And also in this poem, we find certain other elements that is having some similarity with the literature of adventure or the literature of journey. So here, the journey or the pilgrimage is a metaphor, and it is elaborating or it is representing the innate desire of a man for going out, for making a pilgrimage to quench his spiritual thirst. And the poem is elaborating about such a journey, such a pilgrimage, and through that, the poet is able to present the contemporary society and its different aspects. So, the poem Enterprise, it is composed in 6 stanzas of 5 lines each. The language is very simple. It started as a pilgrimage, exalting minds and making all the burdens light. The second stage, explored but didn't taste the call. So he is elaborating, the poet narrator is elaborating about a pilgrimage with exalting minds, where the minds were excited and making all the burdens light. All the burdens of undertaking such a journey, which is very arduous, which is very difficult, sometimes physically challenging. But the undertakers, they were in such a great spirit that their burdens seemed light. The second stage explored but didn't taste the call. In the second stage of their journey, their patience, their enthusiasm, which was very much evident in the first stage, was explored, it was tested, but didn't taste the call, but it could not deter the undertakers from not going for the journey. The sun beat down to march our rage. We stood it very well, I thought, observed and put down copious notes on things the peasants sold and bought. So, what were the hardships? He is narrating about the physical hardships coming from the nature. The sun beat down to march our rage. The heat of the sunshine, it was a great hindrance. It was a great challenge to their marching forward with enthusiasm, marching forward with a great speed. But we stood it very well. But the undertakers of this pilgrimage, they were so exalted, they were so determined that they simply didn't care for it and they marched on. But the poet is using the word thought. I thought. So it is his thought that everyone is determined to reach at the goal of their journey. Observed and put down copious notes on things. And the poet, as one of the members of this journey, this pilgrimage, he was observing each and everything that was coming on his way. On the way they were encountering all those things, he was noting down very copiously, very minutely. And the peasant sold and bought. So, what he came across? He saw it was the ordinary life, the life of the peasants. They were passing through the agrarian places where the peasants sold and bought their products. So, it is symbolic of the ordinary ways of life that they encountered. There was nothing special, but the ordinary life from which they wanted to escape, to get some spiritual objectivity in their life by this pilgrimage. The ways of serpents and of goats. And they also came across various animals, the serpents and the goats. The serpent is also symbolic of the cruelty of nature, the viciousness of nature, and the goat representing the popular aspects of nature, where the nature is like a grazing ground, where nature invites everyone to venture into it, to explore it. The ways of serpents and goats, three cities where a sage has taught to, they also came across three cities, not only the agrarian settings but also the urban settings. They came across three cities where a sage had taught to, where a sage had traveled and made the people of the cities his disciples, teaching them the ways of religion, the ways of spirituality. But when the differences arose on how to cross a desert patch, we lost a friend whose stylish approach was quite the best of all our batch. So when this group of pilgrimages, they were moving through all these myriad landscapes, enjoying each and every bit of this journey, then came another challenge to test their endurance, to test their determination. And what was that? That was a desert patch. And they have to cross through the desert. So what happened? Differences arose. So people in that group, they had differences that how to cross the desert. Might be somebody was proposing to cross the desert in the night when it will be cooler. Might be someone else is proposing that they should go around, though it will be a longer route, but they can go around the desert to avoid the heat and dust of the desert. So, the differences arose on how to cross a desert patch. We lost a friend whose stylish prose was quite the best of all our batch, and they lost one of their friends. Here, the friend left them because he didn't want to be a part of this journey anymore, which will go through the challenges of the desert. And he is narrating his friend as a stylish prose writer who writes stylish prose, but when it comes to cross the desert, he quit. So, the poet is trying to show here through this prose writer that people often are very illustrative, are very elucidate about many things in life. They may be speaking a lot of things as if there is no challenge which cannot be overcome. But when the real challenges come, they quit. A shadow falls on us and grow. Another phase was reached when we were twice attacked and lost our way. So after the departure of that friend who was so stylish, prose writer who was giving them various accounts of life and how to conquer the obstacles of life, but when the obstacle came, he left. It became a shadow that fell on them and grew. They all became sad. They all felt disheartened. And another phase was reached. Another phase came when they were twice attacked. They were twice attacked by the people on the way because they were strangers. People didn't believe them. And or people thought that they are the pilgrims and they could be looted. So they were attacked and lost their way. In these attacks, they scattered. They lost their destination, the way, and they went in some other ways. They went in some different ways. A section claimed its liberty to leave the group. And at this point, a group of the pilgrims, they declared that they are no more going to abide by the rule of the group. They are going to leave the group. They will be moving separately from this group. They will be out of the code of conduct of this group because the group is attracting so much of disadvantages, so much of hardship. So there might be something with this group. So some people wanted to leave. So who are these people? These are the opportunists who are with the group till the group does well. But when there comes the real hardship, they get separated by blaming for all the hardships the leader or the rules of the group. So, in this way, one group also declared their liberty. I tried to pray. And here the poet tried to pray. He was trying to pray to the God that why all these things are happening. Because they had started for a pilgrimage. They wanted to go to the holy place to pray God. So why all these things are happening to people? Why these things are coming their way? Why they are having these experiences which they never had imagined? Our leader said he smelt the sea. And in this difficult time, the leader said that he smelt the sea. Here the sea is a metonym, the metonym for the ultimate goal, the ultimate destination. Probably the leader wanted to keep the group united in spite of the split. Therefore, he declared that he is going to find the smell of their goal as if the goal is very near and they are going to get it. So, in this way, the leader is trying to bring positivity into the group by giving them some new hope. We noticed nothing as we went, but as they continued in the hope of coming across their goal, they found nothing, a struggling crowd of little hope. So gradually, their hopes were also diminishing and they were emerging as a struggling group who were now disheartened, but still they are continuing in a mechanical way in that pilgrimage. Ignoring what the thunder meant, deprived of common needs like soap, and they were still moving on mechanically in a ritualistic manner, ignoring what the thunder meant, what the thunder was telling them. Here, thunder is a symbol for the inner conscience, for the inner sense, which was telling them something else, but they ignored it. They wanted to pursue the ritualistic way of going for the pilgrimage because they hoped that ultimately they will find their goal, what they were searching for. They will be better human beings. Though there are certain hardships, there are certain splits, they have encountered so many disadvantages. So ultimately, they will come across deprived of common needs like soap. They even didn't have their common needs of cleaning their body. When they were undergoing so much of suffering, deprivation, and hardship, that even the very common things for maintaining their body was not available to them. Some were broken, some merely bent. But here, the soap can also stand for or suggest the agent of cleansing, the agent of cleansing their mind, that their minds were grappling with all the sadness, all the sufferings, and thoughts of failure. They couldn't do away with it. Therefore, some were broken and some merely bent. Some were completely devastated and some were still having the ritualistic hope, not the real one. When finally we reach the place, we hardly know why we were there. And finally, this group of pilgrims, they reached their destination. But after reaching there, they wondered that why they after all came to this place. Because the trip had darkened every face. The journey had darkened every face. The journey had given them sadness, sorrow, and it had brought before them the darker sides of life. Because it is there that when it is the fortune, all are there with you. But when there is the misfortune, people desert you. So these lessons were learned in a very candid manner by these pilgrims. Therefore, they couldn't enjoy their destination, they couldn't be happy with their destination. Our deeds were neither great nor rare. Therefore, what we had achieved at last, it was neither great nor very rare. Why? Because people, other people were also there. They also find such experiences in their life. It is a common experience of all humanity. Our deeds were neither great nor rare. Home is here where we have to gather grace. Therefore, the final line, the poet is bringing out his own hard earned wisdom. Home is where we have to gather grace. It is the home which is really having all the grace. The journey to the pilgrimage couldn't bring any happiness, any spirituality. Rather, it brought to them the difficulties of life, the hardships of life, the problems of life. So, here the poem is highlighting many things, that our life is a journey, and in this journey, we always have some goals. We create our own goals and we want to achieve our goals. But the happiness is there only in the expectation of reaching the goal, only in the undertaking of the journey, but not in the destination. And the journeys are also necessary. Though the final wisdom is home is where we have to gather grace, but journey is necessary to know the other side of life, the unknown things of life. It is just like Thomas Gage, William Blake's poem, the songs of innocence and songs of experience. That experience brings disillusionment, disappointment, but it is a part of the life. Till we take the experiences, we are innocent, we are happy. So, home indicates that sense of innocence, that state of innocence, which is happiness, which is happy because it is ignorant of the experiences. But this journey to the pilgrimage brings the experience, and everyone is disheartened, everyone is disillusioned, and everyone's face is darkened. So, this is the message that the poet wants to deliver. It is just like Daniel Defoe's novel Robinson Crusoe. And at the end of Crusoe's adventure, for a long years, he realized that home is where the grace is. So, that wisdom is undertaken by Nissim Ezekiel, and he is trying to tell his readers that we cannot do without the journey, but the home is always better. And in another sense also, from the religious sense also, the spiritual sense also, visit to the God is not spirituality. If we care to our people around, if we care to the creatures around, the nature around, that is the true spirituality. Visiting the God is not spirituality. So, in this way, the poem is having layers of suggestiveness. And from this poem, questions can be asked about the themes of the poem. What are the different thematic concerns that Nissim Ezekiel points out in the poem? Or the question also can be asked about the poem enterprise as a modern poem. So, how it is a modern poem? In spite of its theme, which is based on the age-old idea of pilgrimage, how it is a modern poem? Because through this poem, he is bringing a social satire, the satire on the modern world, where the modern man is very complex. In spite of his knowledge about pilgrimage, he is not dedicated to the pilgrimage. He is not dedicated to his journey. Therefore, he is getting easily disillusioned. So, the stylish prose writer is disillusioned. Others are declaring their liberty, and so on and so forth. So, in this way, the question can be answered. I hope you will be benefited by this interpretation. Thank you.